are in car with John Alesi. That very familiar high hand driving position on the steering wheel. Hands almost sort of at 5 to 1 rather than the more traditional 10 to 2. And little John Alesi's head again. He leans his head so far over inner corner, it almost does appear to come out of the cockpit at times. Coming down to try and get past Paul Belmondo. Now offline going into the chicane, having to try and straight line it as much as possible, losing time in the process. And there's the finish line, 1 minute 17.862. Slightly quicker than Alesi did previously. Currently still in 5th place behind 1 minute 18.721.
Well, Jean Alesi, it's fun. Again, Jean Alesi being very spectacular. There we see him drive away. And here we see the spin inboard.
Yeah, well, a little bit wide coming into the corner onto the dirty part of the circuit, and a rather lazy spin onto the grass. He didn't quite make it onto the... Well, he's going to find reverse gear somewhere there.
Those two, and Aguri Suzuki improving on his best. He's now got a 120.062. Both the Williams are out there, and both are on their second set of tyres, if I could see right. I'm sure Riccardo Patrese is on the second set of tyres. He just left the pits for a final blast for pole position.
Well, here we are in car with Ivan Capelli. Quite a different driving style to that of teammate John Alesi. Alesi, really picks the car up and chucks it into a corner. Capelli tends to want to feel the car, and you can see the hand movements are quite a lot different. And also the position the steering wheel is held. Capelli holding it in the more traditional 10 to 2 position as opposed to Alesi's 5 to 1. But really, confidence is the factor that I suspect Capelli really is lacking right now. And if you haven't got the confidence, then the commitment isn't there either. And, remember that shunt that Capelli had in Canada? It looked a very nasty shunt indeed. Capelli only did a day and a bit of testing at Silverstone, where Alesi had the full 3 days. Difficult period for Ivan Capelli. You can almost sense when you watch Capelli in the circuit that commitment is just being held back. He's not prepared to go to the limit, to the very edge. Well, he's in fact going very slowly now anyway. You can just see it. He's not prepared to go out and put his heart in his mouth. Not once and forever lap. He's decided to into the pits, have a thought about it. We've got some 15 minutes of the session left. Andrea de Cesaris is 26th. That's an unusual situation to see Andrea de Cesaris in these days.
On the bubble.
On the bubble. In fact, both Tyrrells well off the pace this weekend.
Well, I don't know whether it's the Tyrrell or anything else, but the other thing I was saying earlier on was the March isn't up where it's been of late. I mean, Carl Wendlinger is not up in the top 10. Wendlinger is in 22nd position, so maybe it's got something to do with the Omar engine not being very much suited for this circuit.
John Alesi, look at that now, made a complete, let's call it a mess of the hairpin bend. Lost momentum. Trying very hard indeed. In fact, very early in the lap, coming through that section, the Grand Courbet. Very, very, very on the limit indeed. And again, traffic, so really, best thing, Jean, you can do is just slow down, give yourself a minute or a second or so to catch your breath. And then as you come to the end of the lap, have another stab at it. You can see 4.5 seconds. That midway point slower than Nigel Mansell. But the never say die Jean Alesi now winding up the elastic band in his Ferrari and have a go. Important through this chicane really to be neat rather than trying to be fast, because it's here you've got to be quick. It's here you've got to be able to get on the power and drive the car hard out of that corner. Second gear, but you've got to get out of it cleanly, because you come into this very quick sequence of corners and then onto the fastest part of the circuit.
Ayrton Senna, although we ride with Jean Alesi at the moment, Ayrton Senna has just started a new lap for him, trying to get that third place back or even improve on the second place, although I think that is a long way to go. And well, maybe the Ilmor engine is suited for this circuit, because Carl Wendlinger is up to 12th.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with the Ilmor engine. It's a very good engine indeed, but probably I think it was lack of testing here a few weeks ago, and I think Tyrrell may have been in a similar situation. If you don't test at a Grand Prix circuit, you are at a big disadvantage, embedding itself in the gravel. Capelli having a one final go here at qualifying. Capelli up to 9th. Johnny Herbert down to 10th, so they've swapped places. The two Ferraris now 8th and 9th, but some half a second between Alesi and Capelli. But Capelli slowly getting there. I think that really is one of the significant differences between Alesi and Capelli. Alesi gets down to a time very, very quickly indeed. Capelli takes very much longer to get down to that time, and again, just that reinforces what I was saying about confidence and commitment.
Well, we're in the last minute of this qualifying session. In fact, there's only 25 seconds to go as we speak, and I think we can safely say that Nigel Mansell's on the provisional pole position with a 1:15.047. Then
on 6 yet again. Nigel Mansell has improved his pole position time,
but still being 2/10 off this morning's fastest time. But he's now some 6/10 faster than anybody else, and third place man is now Gerhard Berger. It's all changed. Mansell, Petresi, Berger, Schumacher, Brundle in 5th at the moment, who's only a couple of tenths, sort of 6/10 slower than Michael Schumacher at the moment. John Alesi is in 6th, but he's just about to finish a lap. And if you see, look at the top of the screen, that is rain.
Well, Jean Alesi pulling out and passing Damon Hill on the new lollipop-coloured Brabham through these very quick, the flat-out left-hand corners, then down a gear into the long double apex Estoril right-hand corner, leading on to the fastest part of the circuit. And ironically, this morning, it was Ivan Capelli in the other Ferrari who was quickest down the straight, 290 kilometers per hour, 118 miles an hour. And Ferrari have done a lot of engine work recently, and they are now satisfied with their engine performance. The problem Ferrari has still remains with this recalcitrant Ferrari F92A chassis.
And Niki Lauda said this morning, well, we're working flat out on the 1993 car. And he also said John Alesi is staying at Ferrari next year. He said he's got a contract, he's staying where he is.
What did he say about Ivan Capelli?
Nothing. Mind you, he wasn't asked about Ivan Capelli, so he doesn't say anything about him, I suppose. But John Alesi being 6th at the moment. Ayrton Senna still in the pits, still trying to get out in 7th place, still not posting a time. Eric Gomez now in 8th. Ivan Capelli 9th. Thierry Boutsen 10th. And a very good effort by Gianni Morbidelli, who is 11th. And JJ Leto, who yesterday went out with a very softly sprung car, low downforce setup, wasn't happy with it. Now he's gone with a high downforce and a very stiff car, and he's in 12th place.
Yes, and for all those fans of the Jordan team, currently Stefano Modena and Mauricio Gugelmin are in 16th and 17th place.
Qualified for the moment are Paul Raimondo in 27th, Christian Fittipaldi in 28th, Damon Hill in 29th, and Eric van der Poel in 30th place. And Christian Fittipaldi is another man who had this morning a nasty shunt, John.
Yes, Christian Fittipaldi had a little skirmish with Michele Alboretto's footwork, and the result was Christian went into one of the walls around the circuit backwards quite heavily. He was then fitted with a surgical collar and flown to Nevers Hospital by helicopter for a quick look-see, because they were concerned about the 5th vertebrae in his neck. Now that is just a precautionary measure. There is no story to substantiate that he has any neck injury, but he had a problem, and they decided the best thing to do is take him away, a quick x-ray, and well, we have to see whether Christian will be able to take part in any further proceedings.
John, I'm very sorry, but Nigel Mansell's just done a 1:39.47 on his last lap. We missed it altogether, but we'll see it here on Eurosport.
His potential, well, one of the Ferraris, as John Alesi, has managed to park it in the gravel. We don't know whether that's a mechanical stoppage. I suspect it was. Here we see him coming down. Oh, a driver stoppage, definitely. Oh, nice one, Jean. Oh, up in the air, the front bouncing around. and that's the Ferrari parked in the gravel. Now there is an example of what happens when a driver comes into that chicane too quickly. He got the rear brake locking on, the back was sliding anyway, and of course with the brake locked on, it just continued the momentum, which caused that. Well, there he's at it again. He's a little wonder boy, isn't he? Jean Alesi getting back on the circuit. Now stop, Jean, there's a car coming. Thank you very much. You just covered the track and gravel, and I'm sure that car following will be very appreciative of Jean's efforts to get back into the pits. Well made it, he has. And probably no damage to his Ferrari other than maybe underneath the car. The very vulnerable underbodies in these cars are prone to getting punctured by stones, especially if you perform like that over a curb. Let me see him. This is him driving back again. Oops, it is too much horsepower there. You can see, look at the amount of stones that are attached, stuck to the tires. Now, that's right, Jean, drag all that gravel across the track.